What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another month of the OCG recap. So, new OCG ban list dropped. Did very little to the format. Over there, it seems as though Floowandereeze has just gotten better. So Floowandereeze now just has a better matchup against everything else. All of, the main decks just took a slight nerf. And yeah, it pretty much just looks the same. It's like 16% still playing branded. I think we're up to now 15% on Floowandereeze. And then everything else is just kind of everything else. Something interesting that I noticed looking at the OCG format for essentially the back end or the start of their ban list was that Punk become quite prevalent, which is the reason why it is going to be the first deck that we cover. Definitely look at picking up your Punk cards. It seems as though it's splashable in pretty much everything. And it just kind of is good. So yeah, definitely a recommendation from me to go and pick up that stuff. But as always, before we get into this OCG recap, do make sure to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are always happy to have new people to the channel. And let's get on into this OCG recap. So starting us off, we of course have Punk, but this Punk is mixed with Adamancipator. I opted to go for the 60 card build simply because it looked a lot more interesting. There was a lot more creativity in a 60 card build, but there are 40 card lists out there that simply just focus on Punk and Adamancipator as a whole, and they don't resolve on resolving fundamentally broken stuff like Grass and Brilliant Fusion and stuff like that. But starting us off for this list, we do have our Adamancipator line, so 3 Analyzer, 3 Researcher, and 3 Seeker. For our hand traps of choice, we've got 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Later on, you'll see 3 copies of Maxi. Then for our rocks, we have 3 Block Dragon, 2 Sneaky Destrudo float in here for some Synchro package, 3 Doki Doki, 1 Alexandrite with no target. All these lists are playing Alexandrite. I don't know why I'm saying it so funky. I think it's just because it's the Earth. That's the reason why you're playing it over another option like your Garnet, because your Garnet's a fire. Then we have 3 Gigantes, 3 copies of Quaki Mirror Guardian. Then we have our Punk line. So we've got 1 Dianote, the new card. Followed up with 3 Foxy Tune, 2 copies of Xenamin. 1 copy of Revival Golem follows up after that, and then 1 card I didn't know existed. It's Rock Band Xenoguitar. So this is, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 rock monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, then place 1 card from your hand on top of the deck. If this card is banished from your field or graveyard, you can send 1 rock monster from your deck to your graveyard. This card, very good. If it's in Master Duel, it is definitely going to be going into my 60 card Gem Knight list, because I quite like this. Then after that, we hit a scrap line. So we've got 1 Chimera, 1 Raptor, and 1 Worm. And then 2 Tackle Crusader follow that up. For our spells and traps, a lot of broken stuff. So we've got 1 copy of Brilliant Fusion with 2 Cold By and 1 Crossout. 2 E-Telly, 1 Foolish, 3 Left Arm, 3 Miracle Rupture, and 2 Grass Looks Greener. For our extra deck, weirdly, the Gem Knight of choice is Zakona. But that kind of makes sense. If you've seen anything on the channel that I do for Gem Knights, you'll know that you're going to be sending the Block Dragon off that. So they clearly go Alexandrite, Block Dragon, resolve everything that way. Then we have our Synchros. We've got 1 Dragite, 1 Raptite, 1 Baron de Fleur. Then we have 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Gallant Granite. Then for our links, we've got Access Code, Appaloosa, Halka Curious, 1 Dark, 1 IP, Into the Unicorn with the Scrap Wyvern, and the Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. I wouldn't say Cursed World. Then for our side deck, pretty standard, but it is very much a side deck. This is literally probably a list you would see me play, especially with this side deck. We've got 3 Droll, 3 Nibiru, 3 Lightning Storm, 3 Salesman, 3 Imperm. Okay, next off we have a deck that found some kind of fringe success over the weekend, or I guess over the past week or 2 in the OCG. It's not Aromas Fairy, I wouldn't say Aromas Fairy, it's Sunavalon. Essentially just link the deck. This one definitely probably just focuses on the Cactus Bouncer to kind of floodgate out the opponent, and then you can skill drain them for everything in the follow-up, and hopefully that kind of skips their turn. But the list is as follows. For our Romage package, we've got 1 Laurel and 1 Angelica. Hand traps of choice, again, we have 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Maxi, pretty standard for every deck in the OCG. Then we have 1 Cactus Bouncer, 3 copies of Draconet, 2 Lone Fire Blossom, 1 copy of Mardell, 2 Parallel Exceed, 1 Spore, 1 Sunseed Shadow, 1 Sunseed Twin, 1 Sunvine Maiden, 1 Carrot Weight Champion of the World, and then we have 3 Sunseed Genesis Loki. Interestingly for the main deck, they've opted to not play the the Perform Age Clown, Trick Clown over the Draco Net, simply because Trick Clown is very good if you open it with like just a standard combo, but it does fundamentally do the same thing Parallel Xyz does, so I guess that's probably the reason why they've gone for that. I would normally recommend to play 3-3 ratio on that, but hey, I guess the Draco Net package kind of works for them. Then for our spells, we've got 2 Call by the Grave with the 1 Crossout, 1 for 1, 1 Avarice, 2 Sunvine Shrine, 3 Sunvine Sowing. This is released for us? I thought this was still an OCG exclusive. Interesting. I'll have to pull my Sunseed Club or my Sunvine stuff out of the bulk. Then we've got 3 Unexpected Die, 1 Blessed Winds, 1 Imperm, and 1 Sunavalon Bloom. Then for our extra deck, incredibly standard extra deck for Sunavalon. We've got the 1 Rumus Fairy Sweet Marjoram. We've got the 1 Strenna. We've got the 1 of the big dude, Hyperion. This is your negate package. Then we've got the 2 copies of Jasmine, 1 copy of Resurgent, 1 copy of Daphne, 3 copies of Dryas, 1 copy of the big guy. I never can pronounce this properly. Then we've got 2 Melius, 1 copy of Healer, and the 1 Thrasher. Of course, you got the Healer in there for the standard combo and the Thrasher for pushing for game. Then for the side deck, a bit all over the place, but it probably made sense with all the ratios and stuff like that. We've got 2 Droll and Lockbird, 1 Effect Veiler, 2 Gadala, 2 copies of Ghost Spell, 1 Nibiru, 3 Dark Ruler No More, 1 Lightning Storm, 2 Imperm, and the Red Reboot. Okay, next off we have probably the thing I'm most excited for out of the 3 lists that we're covering today. It is Mysterune. I definitely want to mess around with Mysterune when it releases because it seems really fun. Just to definitely banish out the opponent, but I've just said really fun while looking at the fact that the main monster in this deck is a Majesty's Fiend. Yeah, really fun. There was not a massive amount of Sunavalon, no, that's the last deck we covered, Mysterune decks that did well. One of them top 16'd the YCS. That wasn't this list from memory. Actually, it could have, no, it wasn't this list. It was the Invoke list. The Invoke list top 16 the YCS over there. That is best of 1, so keep that with a grain of salt. Also, that Invoke list wasn't playing Meltdown, but I guess when you have an important field spell for your other archetype, Meltdown's not really useful. But we'll take you through the list for this one. It is, of course, 2 copies of Majesty's Fiend, your big boss monster. You're just going to try and floodgate your opponent out. Surprise, surprise, in the extra deck, you have Chaos Hunter. I'm surprised we didn't see a Vanity's Fiend in here. Then we have 3 Maxi, 2 Nibiru for our hand traps, and then 3 Thunder Dragon because, guess what? Surprise, surprise. There's a Colossus hanging out over here. Then for our spells, there is a lot of them. The non-Mysterune cards are 2 Called by the Grave and 2 Pot of Desires. But then for our Mysterune lineup, that is effectively the rest of the deck. We have 1 copy of Deceit of the Mysterune, 3 copies of Mysterune of Destruction, 2 copies of Mysterune of Dispel, 3 copies of Mysterune of Slumber, 3 copies of Mysterune of the Brilliant Flame, 3 copies of Mysterune of Freezing Curse. I'm going to stop saying Mysterune now. Then we have 3 copies of Golden Droplets, 2 copies of Raging Storms, and 3 copies of Point of the Mysterune. And then lastly, we have our field spell. So we've got 3 copies of Spring of the Mysterune coming out after that. Then for our extra deck, we have 3 copies of Gary Fangs of the Mysterune, 3 copies of Hegwin Winds of the Mysterune, and then we have 2 of the other ones, so Munin Wings of the Mysterune. Effectively, what you're looking to do with your Mysterune package is Tribute Summon over them. You're going to open 1 Thunder Dragon, you're going to activate its effect, get another one, summon a Mysterune Fusion, Tribute over it, make Colossus. That's it. That's the game plan. You're going to lock your opponent out from searching that way, you're going to deck them out with the Banish. Or you're going the Majesty's Fiend route, you're going to do the same thing, summon one of these fusions, Tribute over it. That is it. That is effectively the way your monster line works in this deck, and your spells handle the rest. Then for the rest of our extra deck package, we have the 1 Mud Dragon of the Swamp, 1 Dragostapelia, and 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, of course, our Super Poly targets. The 1 Colossus, like we mentioned earlier, 1 Chaos Ruler, the Magical Dragon, and then we have just some standard nightmares, so Cerberus and Phoenix. Then for our side deck, we've got the 3 Chaos Hunter, 1 copy of Prankatops, 3 copies of Psyframe Gear Epsilon. We have the Trap Negator hanging out in here, so we don't get hit on the hand trap on the Colossus, so we don't see Colossus getting impermed. We have the Epsilon to, of course, get rid of that. Then we go into our Chaos Ruler. God, this is degenerate. Then after that, we have our 2 copies of Santa Claus, because when kaijuing your opponent isn't funny enough. And then 2 copies of Super Poly, and 3 copies. Sorry, I'm stumbling, we're at the end. It's 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier, finishing off the side deck for this one. But that does wrap us up for this month's OCG recap. As always, do make sure to comment down below any decks that you want me to try and find. At the moment, the kind of fringe of the meta in the OCG, completely open. There is a lot of like random stuff floating around that's really cool. The only problem is the converse to that is the top decks are still the same decks. But I guess it is what it is on that one. As always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon, everybody.